I've guested on over 40 shows, and I believe I'm a much better host because of it. So use that podcast as an opportunity to practice and become a better podcast host and ultimately a better speaker.
Your podcast should be your most powerful business development tool, a trust and authority builder, and your content creation engine. Let's help your podcast help your business with the Story Trust Media Podcast. Here's your host, John Gehring.
One of the cool things about podcasting is that it grows you as a speaker. But one way that you can become a better speaker through podcasting is by doing this intentionally. Don't get me wrong. If you were to just start a podcast and have fun with it and maybe try to grow an audience and build a platform out of it, you would naturally become a better speaker, which is a really important skill in life. But the thing is, if you intentionally try to become a better speaker through your podcast, it not only improves your podcast, but it can drastically improve your speaking at an even faster rate. So here are 3 ways you can leverage your podcast to practice speaking and become a better, more confident public speaker. Number 1, transcript analysis. This is a great method when it comes to podcasting that you can do to improve how well your podcast sounds, but also improve your own skills as a speaker. After every podcast episode, run the transcript through an AI. I've started doing this, and I found that it's quite amazing how many filler words that I use. Early on, it was a ton, but as I continue to be more cognizant about it, and I almost gamified it, like how many filler words can I use? How low can I get that number in my next podcast episode? And I'd run it through the AI and it would give me the amount of filler words, the ums, the ahs, the likes, and all of those repeated phrases, everything like that. You put the raw transcript through, obviously before the editing, because you may end up taking some of those out. I don't recommend always taking all of them out. You want to sound natural, but the fewer the better. If you can, in say a 15-minute solo podcast episode, keep the filler words to a minimum of maybe 10 to 15, you're a pretty effective public speaker. If you can keep it under 1 filler word a minute, I'd say you're pretty strong at public speaking. The crazy thing is when you can get even lower than that. When you can go an entire 10 to 15 minute episode and have literally 2 filler words the entire time. Now you've made a lot of progress. But of course, it doesn't start that way. And if you're not used to public speaking, that number may be pretty high. You may run that transcript through AI and see that you have 170 filler words like I did the first time I did this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have a lot of work to do when it comes to speaking. But that's okay. It's a fun way to gamify how good of a speaker you are. Now, obviously, you can be a good speaker and use filler words. You can be a poor speaker and avoid filler words. So that's not the only indicator of you becoming a better speaker, but it certainly seems to be consistent from what I've seen. People who use less filler words are normally more confident. They're normally more prepared. And that's a really important piece of podcasting too. So my number 1 piece of advice for you, if you want to become a better speaker through your podcast, run the transcript through an AI, have it analyze how many filler words, maybe anything else when it comes to being an effective public speaker. And then you can use intentionality moving forward. You can be more intentional about, okay, I'm going to reduce my filler word usage. I have this crutch phrase. Use AI to help leverage that. So there's the first tip. Number 2 is reducing the amount of notes that you use. Now, at first, podcasters who aren't seasoned public speakers probably feel a lot more comfortable with having a lot of notes in front of them, right? And wanting to record an episode with notes and maybe even scripting out some pieces of it. And that's okay. If that helps you create high quality content, there's nothing wrong with that. But as you get more comfortable, I encourage you to practice using fewer and fewer notes, where now instead of paragraphs of notes or a whole page, you just have some bullet points. I've gotten to the point where now over here, I have 3 bullet points, and that's my entire episode. And obviously, I put more thought into what I'm going to be saying than those 3 bullet points, but those 3 bullet points just help me stay on topic and kind of rescue me if I get off track, right? Use fewer notes. Allow yourself to lean into the fact that this is going to be edited, to take some of that pressure off so you can deliver some of your best podcast performances without feeling the need to be perfect. But slowly reduce the amount of notes you use over time. And you always may have notes, and that's great. Probably shouldn't go into a podcast episode totally blind. But it becomes a good indicator of how strong of a public speaker you are when you use less and less notes. And if you go into your podcast episodes with intention to use less and less notes, you push yourself to become a better speaker faster. And the third way to leverage podcasting to become a better public speaker is to use it to find other speaking opportunities. Podcasting is such a powerful way to get on stages, even if it's just a community event. Even if you just go to the local library and say, hey, I have a podcast about this, would love to share a free event for the community. You may speak in front of 12 people in a conference room at a local library. That helps you become a better speaker. And it's all made possible by your podcast. Guesting on other podcasts, another great example of an opportunity to practice public speaking. When you have a podcast, a lot of times that gives you a little bit more authority and allows you some opportunities to guest on other shows. The fact that you're a podcaster. So leverage that podcast to get those opportunities. And when you practice, you become more effective. In fact, when you guest on other shows, if you have an interview style show, you notice a lot of things as a guest that you don't as a host, and it actually makes you a much better host. I've guested on over 40 shows, and I believe I'm a much better host because of it. So use that podcast as an opportunity to practice and become a better podcast host and ultimately a better speaker. Isn't that the beauty of podcasting? That even if you never got any business from it, which I have to say is unlikely, because if you stick with podcasting and you stay in your niche and you implement the best practices that we share on this podcast, you are pretty much guaranteed to eventually find some sort of business benefit, if not direct business from your podcast. So I encourage you to do that. But even if you don't, the really valuable thing about podcasting is how much it helps you become a better public speaker. And once you become a better public speaker, those business opportunities and those other opportunities, maybe if you're looking for employment, they present themselves more easily. And by being more intentional with it, you accelerate that growth in your public speaking abilities. And it's all through the power of podcasting.
Thanks for checking out the Story Trust Media podcast. Learn more about what Story Trust Media can do for your business and book a free consultation at storytrust.media.